Part 34. Urban Super Dude. Author, Eagle in the Desert. Chapter 331. Next. Su Yang followed Duan Mulu, shuttled through the dark night, and went to the Palace City together. The architectural style of the Palace City in Country D is similar to that of China, with high red brick walls and carved beams and painted buildings. The two crossed the high wall, avoided the guards, and soon arrived at the underground treasure house Duan Mulu mentioned. There are 3 floors in total. The first floor has about 1,000 square meters, all of which are worldly gold, silver, jewelry, antique watches and other money. This layer alone is estimated to account for more than half of Country D's wealth. Certainly. Regardless of whether you are an ancient warrior or a cultivator, you will not look down on these things after reaching a certain level. Money is just an external possession, not worth mentioning. Immediately afterwards, Su Yang followed Duan Mulu to the second floor. The area here is similar to that on the first floor, but the items displayed inside are quite different, all related to ancient martial arts. Weapons, secret books, elixirs, and precious medicinal materials are all available in a wide variety. With so many resources, I'm afraid they can support a first-class sect, right? Master Su. At this time, Duan Mulu walked to the southeast corner and smiled softly. The energy stones here are all of the same specifications. Su Yang followed and took a look, then smiled and said, "Yes, Senior, with these energy stones, you should be able to become a cultivator tonight. We have Mr. Lasu now." Hearing this, Duan Mulu was extremely excited and couldn't help but urge, "Master Su, can we start now?" Okay, Su Yang nodded, wishing that Duan Mulu would go astray as soon as possible. Good. Duan Mulu was ecstatic and said with a smile, "Master Su, the 3rd floor of the treasure house is where I usually practice. How about we start on the 3rd floor?" No problem. Su Yang agreed, and then moved the energy stone to the 3rd underground floor. "Master Su," Duan Mulu suddenly shouted, "put it down." Damn it! What happened again? Could it be that he saw my proud expression? Su Yang's heart skipped a beat again. He felt bad and a little nervous. "Master Su." At this time, Duan Mulu said seriously, "You are willing to guide me in my cultivation. It is already a great kindness to me. How can I let you move these boxes? You can rest nearby for a while I transport the energy stones to the 3rd floor by myself." After saying that, Duan Mulu started to work, using his Genkai to carry a box and walk into the 3rd floor. "Your uncles. Can't you just say it nicely? Why do you have to be so surprised? It's really funny how you behave like this." Su Yang glanced at Duan Mulu, and then stopped talking, too lazy to care about this matter. Duan Mulu repeated this, and soon transported all 2,000 to 3,000 energy stones to the 3rd floor of the treasure house. Subsequently, Su Yang followed Duan Mulu and entered the 3rd floor. Because this is just a place for cultivation, the area is not as large as the 1st and 2nd floors, but it is enough, estimated to be more than 50 square meters. "Master Su, everything is ready, what should I do next?" At this time, Duan Mulu was eager to give it a try and was a little excited. "Senior, sit cross-legged, relax, don't say anything, don't ask anything." Su Yang said seriously, "I will send the cultivation method directly to your mind, and then guide you to practice spiritual energy. The first trace of spiritual energy in the body is like water from a well. Once there is a trace, more spiritual energy will flow out continuously." Su Yang continued, "Of course, the most difficult thing to practice is the first thread. Don't worry, Senior, I will help you." "Master Su, thank you," Duan Mulu said with gratitude. "Senior, you're welcome." Su Yang smiled and said, "Okay, Senior, without further ado, just do as I say." Hearing this, Duan Mulu nodded slightly, and then sat cross-legged on the futon, eyes slightly closed, open mind, and letting go of all his guard. Su Yang naturally noticed that Duan Mulu really did as he said, with a murderous intent in his eyes. At this moment, he planned to directly kill Duan Mulu. But soon, Su Yang gave up this idea, and the killing intent in his eyes disappeared in a flash. Duan Mulu is, after all, a master in the Shenzone realm, and his strength is unfathomable. Besides, how could an old guy of this level really not be wary of me? Su Yang secretly said, forget it, he is going to become a cultivator anyway. When the spiritual energy and true energy collide, it will not be too late to kill him. There is no need to take risks. With this in his mind, Su Yang began to help Duan Mulu embark on cultivation just like he helped Wang Fuegui. I saw him grabbing it with his big hand, and more than 30 energy stones appeared in front of him. Immediately afterwards, Su Yang quickly set up the spirit gathering formation, then made a secret with both hands, passed a low-level technique to Duan Mulu, and tried his best to guide Duan Mulu. However, becoming a cultivator is not an easy task, it takes at least 2 hours. By then, Duan Mulu will be destroyed, and everything in the treasure house will be his own. A playful smile appeared on Su Yang's lips. Unconsciously, 2 hours are about to pass. With Su Yang's help, Duan Mulu successfully entered the ranks of cultivators. A touch of spiritual energy appeared in his body, making him look like a cultivator at the first level of Qi training. Ha ha ha. I have been dreaming about it for 100 or 200 years, and now my dream has finally come true, and I am one step closer to immortality. Duan Mulu opened his eyes, spread out his palms, and looked at the fluctuations of spiritual energy in his palms. He was immediately ecstatic, aura, ha ha ha, spiritual energy. Becoming a cultivator, with my qualifications, I will definitely be able to rise quickly, and immortality is just around the corner. Su Yang next to him smiled softly and said, congratulations, senior, for setting foot in cultivation. I'm very happy. Hee hee. But who knows, Duan Mulu showed a hint of cunning, looked at Su Yang with cold eyes, and said with a sinister smile, Su Xiantian, you are too naive, too naive. There are only 2 cultivators in the world today, you and me. In other words, you may be my biggest threat in the future. Do you think I will let you leave country D alive? At this point, Duan Mulu stood up and sneered, Su Xiantian, don't blame me. If you do, blame yourself for believing in other people's oaths too easily. What about eternal life? Ha ha ha, no matter how cruel the oath is, you can't restrain me. You will die, huh? Duan Mulu mobilized his true energy and was about to kill Su Yang, but the next moment his face changed drastically, and a strong pain suddenly came from his body. Urban Super Dude. Author, Eagle in the Desert. Chapter 332. Pain. At this moment, Duan Mulu felt as if there were millions of poisonous insects wreaking havoc in his body. This level of pain is absolutely top-notch, better than being killed by 1,000 cuts. Even though he was a Shenzone master who had lived for nearly 300 years, he still couldn't bear it. Beads of sweat as big as peas seeped out in an instant and slid down Duan Mulu's forehead. It was so painful that he couldn't bear to live. Ah! Duan Mulu couldn't bear it anymore. He still had the ability to attack Su Yang. He was holding his stomach and huddled on the futon, his face was tangled together, and his face was full of pain. Hee hee. Seeing this, Su Yang raised the corners of his mouth, revealing a playful smile. All this was naturally expected by him. When an ancient warrior suddenly possesses spiritual energy in his body, he will be fine as long as he does not mobilize his true energy. Therefore, Duan Mulu had no physical signs before, and even opened his palms to see his spiritual energy. But if you mobilize your true energy and attempt to use it, your body will instantly be counterattacked by the spiritual energy. The powerful spiritual energy will never allow low-level true energy to exist in the master's body, so it begins to devour and encroach. At the same time, no matter how powerful the true energy is, it will gradually dissipate and retreat to the danshan. In the face of spiritual energy, low-level true energy has no room to resist and will only be slowly devoured. During this process, Duan Mulu suffered terribly, and his fighting ability was naturally greatly reduced. Senior. At this time, Su Yang's eyes fell on Duan Mulu, and he smiled playfully. What's wrong with you? Is the child kicking your stomach and you are about to give birth? Su Xiantian. Stop talking nonsense. Duan Mulu became furious, his voice trembled due to the severe pain, and he gritted his teeth and said, what did you do to me? Ha ha. Su Yang smiled softly and said, Duan Mulu, you wholeheartedly want to become a chi practitioner, but you don't know that spiritual energy and true energy cannot coexist. Once these two energies appear in the same body at the same time, the true energy and spiritual energy will fight in the body. As the saying goes, one mountain cannot tolerate two tigers. Su Yang continued, it's just that true energy is too low end. In front of spiritual energy, it can only be embezzled. At this moment, the spiritual energy in your body is swallowing up the majestic true energy. Naturally, you are in great pain. Su Yang continued, if nothing happens, the true energy you have in the Shenzone realm will be swallowed up in 3 hours at most. Duan Mulu, during this period, your strength has been greatly reduced, and you are definitely no match for me. Su Yang narrowed his eyes slightly and sneered, now, your life and death depend only on my thoughts. Mean. Duan Mulu said angrily, Su Xiantian, I didn't expect you to be the one who went back on your word. Su Yang paused, then couldn't help but said, Duan Mulu, if you want to be shameless, have you forgotten what you just did? Damn it, you don't even care about the oath you swore, you want to kill me, and now you're saying I've gone back on my promise. Su Yang sneered, you are really a role model at the same time. Duan Mulu felt guilty and endured the pain as he said, Master Su, I was just joking with you just now. Don't take it seriously. Now there are only 2 chi practitioners like us in the world. We should support each other, help each other, and move forward hand in hand. Go to hell and move forward hand in hand. Do you think I'm really stupid? Su Yang sneered repeatedly and raised his foot to kick Duan Mulu on the side, causing Duan Mulu to slide on the ground. Boom! His body didn't stop until it hit the wall, and then he spat out a mouthful of blood, and his face turned a little pale. Su Yang did not let Duan Mulu go because of this, and strode over with murderous intent in his eyes, intending to kill him to avoid future troubles. Su Xiantian, if you have something to say, please tell me. Duan Mulu was so frightened that he didn't even wipe the blood stains from the corner of his mouth, and quickly begged for mercy, as long as you are willing to spare my life, I am willing to give you everything I have. You can take whatever you want from the treasure house. He. You don't need to tell me this. If I kill you, I can take away everything here. Su Yang stared at Duan Mulu, imitating Duan Mulu's tone just now, and sneered, Senior, don't blame me. If you want to blame yourself. You trust others too easily. Duan Mulu was frightened and regretful, and became angry and said, damn it, if I had known this, I should have killed you earlier. I have been active all my life. I have been in the Shenzone for more than 100 years. I have never been weaker than others. I am the only one who plots against others. How many opponents have died under my hands? I never expected that today, I would fall into the hands of a younger generation. I hate it, poof. As Duan Mulu was talking, Su Yang suddenly took action and shattered his heart with one palm. In an instant, Duan Mulu's eyes widened, his pupils shrank rapidly, and blood spit out from his mouth. Su Xiantian, don't be complacent. My grandson, Duan Muhai, is over 200 years old this year. He has already stepped into the Shenzong sect and is the second strongest person in Country D. Now, he is in the palace city of Country D. You can't even think of leaving here alive, ugh. Before Duan Mulu finished speaking, he stopped breathing and died. The dignified Shenzong master ended miserably, and he could not rest in peace until his death. Because he did not die in a fierce battle, the person who killed him was just a young boy. Duan Mulu felt aggrieved. There's so much nonsense. It's not your turn to worry about my life or death. Su Yang gave Duan Mulu a cold look and could finally relax. As for Duan Mulu's grandson, he hasn't shown up yet, so there's no need to worry for now. Su Yang had already made plans to plunder the treasure house and leave. Anyway, when he came, he did not alert the guards of Country D. No one knew that he and Duan Mulu had visited the treasure house, so they were naturally not afraid of Duan Muhai's subsequent revenge. Moreover, he was only half-step Shenzong, probably at the level of Zhang's Honggaiu. Even if he found Jiangbei, Su Yang was sure to keep him. The corpse of a Shenzong master is an excellent tonic for Shifen. At this moment, Su Yang looked at Duan Muliu's body with a playful smile on his lips. Thinking of Shifen, Su Yang took a look inside the storage ring and found that Shifen was still sleeping, with her whole body emitting light. The body that was thrown in before had already disappeared, not even the bones were left. It must have been eaten and wiped clean by Shifen. What kind of monster is Shifen? After eating so much energy, it still hasn't succeeded in building a foundation. It's so strange. Su Yang showed a hint of doubt, then smiled and said, however, it is almost successful. Judging from its condition, it is only one step away from the goal. However, because there is no follow-up energy to support it, the progress is slow. What the hell, I have to say, Shifen is so lucky. She can eat ready-made food while lying down. Su Yang smiled bitterly at first, and then put Duan Muliu's body into the storage ring. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Urban Super Dude. Author, Eagle in the Desert. Chapter 333. The current storage ring was divided into two areas by Su Yang, half of which was allocated to Shifen and the other half to Su Zeng. Duan Muliu's body naturally appeared in Shifen's space. Almost instantly, Shifen opened her eyes and looked at Duan Muliu's body, feeling extremely surprised. Wow, Master, what a strong energy, an ethereal girl's voice sounded in Su Yang's mind. Su Yang smiled softly, and then asked, Shifen, you are just building the foundation, why do you use so much energy? I don't know either. Shifen shook her little head and then said, however, Master, I have a hunch that if I absorb this person's blood essence, I will be able to successfully build the foundation, and then I can turn into a human form. Master, wait for me. I will serve you well after I transform into a human form. Shifen's voice is beautiful and ethereal, like a teenage girl's, clean and pure, and really sounds good. But now, she is still a little teddy, looking like a dog. When she said these words, Su Yang got goosebumps all over his body and felt very uncomfortable. Ahem, just absorb it quickly and stop thinking about it. Su Yang coughed twice in embarrassment, and then said, Shifen, you are now infinitely close to foundation building. You should be very strong, right? Yes, Master. Shifen said seriously, I have touched the threshold of foundation building. I am only one step away. I think I can easily defeat you. It's embarrassing for me to say this. Can you put it more tactfully? Su Yang complained with a dark face. Master, what is euphemism? Su Yang had a black line on his head, and then said, forget it, you can continue to practice, but remember not to get too obsessed, maybe I will wake you up to help me fight. Okay, Shifen agreed respectfully. Afterwards, Su Yang recovered his mind and no longer had to worry about Duan Mu Hai. Now, Su Yang himself is at the 9th level of Qi training. If he performs blood sacrifice, he can kill the peak of Tianzong, but he is not sure about dealing with the half-step Shenzong. The White Cat's realm has gone beyond the 9th level of Qi training and is almost on the verge of succeeding in foundation building. According to what it said, if it could defeat itself easily, it would definitely be comparable to the half-step divine sect. Su Yang thought about it. If he was unlucky and met Duan Mu Hai, Duan Mu Liu's grandson, he would just call Shifen and kill him. Duan Mu Liu's treasure house is really good. This second floor contains many aged medicinal materials, which are of great benefit to me and can fully support my foundation building. At this time, Su Yang came to the second floor of the treasure house and looked around at the hundreds of square meters of items, with a smile on his lips. Dad, can you hear me? Just when he was about to take away these things, Su Xing's voice suddenly came from the ring. The storage ring can completely block the sound, but Su Yang is the owner of the ring, so he can naturally control everything in the ring. Little bastard, what's wrong? Why are you calling me? At this time, Su Yang frowned. Dad, you are so cruel. I am still not your biological son. If you have something to say, talk about it. If you have nothing to do, just be there. If you keep nagging me, I won't pay attention to you. No, Dad, I have something, really something. Say, what's wrong? I'm hungry. In the storage ring, Su Xing held his stomach and said aggrievedly, Dad, you have left me here for 32 hours. It has been a full 32 hours. In these 32 hours, I didn't drink a morsel of milk or eat a grain of rice. Do you know how I lived? What are you eating randomly? Su Yang looked at Su Xing and asked with a dark face, what is 1 plus 1? Worry. Son. Su Yang looked at Su Xing and smiled softly, but don't worry, Dad will take you to have a big dinner soon. Son, why are you so stupid? You don't even know what 1 plus 1 equals. This is not okay. Su Yang smiled, and then he was about to return the glass bottle to his son, but at this moment, he suddenly realized that something was wrong. Haha, why are you panicking? Why would I snatch something from a child? Really a math idiot. Su Xing was so happy that he quickly held the glass vase in his arms, as if he had found a treasure. The most important thing is that Baiko Dan is a solid essence block and tastes sweet, just like candy. No wonder Su Xing is so excited. He carefully took out a Baiko Dan and put it in his mouth like eating candy, with a satisfied expression on his face. The best Baiko Dan, ha ha ha, so sweet. Su Xing was complaining when he was suddenly attracted by the glass bottle in front of him. He moved his legs very fast. After running over to observe, he suddenly became very excited. Damn it, Baiko Dan, it turned out to be Baiko Dan. Su Xing actually failed to count just now, and said that only you could count clearly. Dad, it turns out that I have such no status in your heart. How can I ignore such an important thing as eating? Su Yang lowered his head and counted the herbal pills in the glass bottle. There were only 11 pills in total. Smash, this is really my fault, I ignored it. What? Su Xing muttered, it's so annoying. Why are you asking this? I don't know. Immediately afterwards, Su Xing was extremely anxious and ran over to look at the glass bottle eagerly. Dad, what are you doing? I like to eat the Baiko pill the most, but the refining of the Baiko pill is very complicated, and because it replenishes Qi is relatively mild and does not harm the body, it is expensive and difficult to buy. It's better now. I'm hanging out with Dad and starving myself 3 times a day. It's the time when I'm growing taller. Dad, can you afford to pay for delaying my growth? Suzing began to complain about Su Yang. This. Su Yang felt slightly embarrassed, and with the thought, he released Suzing. Depend on. Neglect. Even if my great-grandpa, thanks to all his connections, can only get 4 pills a year, Su Yu and I will share it equally. Each of us can only get 3 pills. Please give it back to me. Su Yang immediately taught on the spot, first gave Suzing a Biko pill, and then gave him another one, and then asked in an inducing tone, you have a Biko pill in your hand, and I gave you another one. How many do you have in your hand now? As he talked, Suzing shed tears of grievance and recalled the past. When I was in Jufeng Mountain, my mother chased after me to feed me food, and my 2 little wives held milk bottles for me to drink. I really miss those days. 4 herb pills, divided between 2 people, can each person get 3 pills? In an instant, Suzing's body appeared out of thin air on the 2nd floor of the treasure house. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, damn, a whole bottle, that's too much, I can't count. Only Su Yu can count. Su Yang walked over, quickly snatched away the glass bottle, looked at it in his hand, and then breathed a sigh of relief. I feel like my son doesn't know how to count. It turns out that the so-called Biko pill is just a pill made from many kinds of medicinal materials. Eating it can enhance the true energy. Urban Super Dude. Author, Eagle in the Desert. Chapter 334. 2. Suzing rolled his eyes at Su Yang, and at the same time clenched the Biko pill in his hand, for fear that Su Yang would snatch it away. Very good. I know there are 2. It seems that my son is not stupid. Today, I will definitely let my son understand this arithmetic problem. Su Yang was very happy, and then asked with a smile, son, what is 1 plus 1 equal to? I don't know, Suzing replied with a confused look on his face. Fuck. Su Yang couldn't hold himself any longer, raised his hand and gave Suzing a brain-shattering blow, shouting, look at how many Biko pills you have in your hand. 2. Suzing covered his head and muttered, how many herb pills I have in my hand have anything to do with what 1 plus 1 equals? Su Yang was speechless and choked on the spot. Finally, he sighed helplessly and threw the glass bottle to Suzing. Never mind. It seems that teaching my son mathematics has a long way to go, and the road is long and difficult. Let's talk about it later. Dad. Suzing, who got the whole bottle of Biko Dan, was extremely happy. Then he looked around, his eyes shining, and said, where is this place? Why are there so many medicinal materials, elixirs and other things? My warehouse doesn't have as many treasures as here. The treasure house of Miyagi City, Country D. Su Yang responded while putting the items on the 2nd floor of the treasure house into the storage ring. With a wave of his hand, an item disappeared and appeared in the storage ring. D Country Miyagi. Suzing seemed to have thought of something and murmured to himself, I heard that there is a top master in the Shenzong realm in D Country. His strength is similar to that of the 3 major forces. He has lived for nearly 300 years. That master established Country D just to help him collect supplies. He built an underground treasure house specifically for storage. It is said that even the 3 major forces are jealous of the materials inside. Unexpectedly, Suzing was talking when he saw Su Yang's operation and asked in confusion, Dad, what are you doing? Collect supplies, Su Yang answered truthfully. But this is something belonging to the Shenzong master from Country D. It's mine now. Su Yang showed a smile, kept moving, and quickly put all the supplies on the 2nd floor into the storage ring. Damn it, Dad is awesome, it turns out you are the real gangster. Suzing said with admiration on his face, it is said that a tiger father has no dog son. It seems that I have to learn more from you. I can't lose you. Su Yang raised his hand and flicked Suzing's head, and said with a slight guilt, "What a gangster, don't talk nonsense if you don't understand." "Okay, okay, Dad, don't worry, I promise not to tell anyone else about your robbery," Suzing whispered, his expression particularly excited. "You little guy." Su Yang looked at Suzing and suddenly felt a headache, so he simply ignored him. Next, Su Yang took his son to the first floor of the treasure house. Wow! So much gold and silver jewelry. When Suzing saw the wealth on the first floor of the treasure house, his eyes suddenly lit up and he said excitedly, "Ha ha ha, Dad, what you did is great. We have made a fortune, and we will have no worries about food and drink in the future." Su Yang ignored him and quickly collected the gold, silver, and jewelry from the first floor. These things still have some effect on Su Yang today. He doesn't like to owe favors. With this wealth, he can buy the medicinal materials needed for cultivation in the Jimin black market. It's embarrassing to always get them for nothing. "Dad, you are really strong. No wonder you learned about my robbery earlier and you taught me a lesson. It turns out you thought I was a little kid." Suzing said excitedly, "You are still very powerful. You directly robbed Country D's treasure house. This is the accumulation of 200 to 300 years in this country. Today, you can serve it all at once. You are so awesome, class. But, Dad, just take it easy. I will definitely surpass you in the future, shine brightly on my family, and carry forward the cause of gangsters." "Shut up." Su Yang had a dark face and gave Suzing a headache. "Hiss." Suzing covered his head and said aggrievedly, "Dad, why did you hit me?" "Oh, I understand, you don't want me to surpass you, otherwise you will lose face." Suzing smiled and said, "Ha ha ha, okay, Dad, I said the wrong thing. I will definitely inherit your mantle and strive to be second only to you. That's all." Su Yang rolled his eyes at Suzing, his face full of helplessness, and sighed again. "Why? This kid is useless. It seems that when I have time in the future, I must establish a correct worldview, outlook on life, values, love. Forget it, there is no need for a love outlook. Damn." As soon as he did this, he began to miss his little wife. It was up to me whether he should say it or not. "Let's go back to China." Su Yang waved his hand, put Suzing into the storage ring, and then jumped out of the underground treasure house. The distance between Country D and Country China is very long. At Su Yang's pace, it will take at least 2 or 3 days to return to Jiangbei. But Lu Hui and Wang Sai are still at the border of southern Xinjiang. Su Yang can go to southern Xinjiang first, and then take a helicopter. But as soon as he left Miyagi, he felt someone staring at him and following him all the way. That man's strength was very strong, almost the same as Zhang's Honggaiwu, and he was probably a half-step divine sect. This person should be the grandson Duanmu Lu mentioned, Duanmu Hai, a 200-year-old ancient warrior who is half a step into the Shenzong realm. After guessing the identity of the person in the dark, Su Yang was a little confused and said to himself, "Strange, he has no murderous intention towards me. He seems to be just curious, so he followed me all the way. Let's test his tone first. It's best not to take action if you can. After all, I'm not absolutely sure." With this thought in his mind, Su Yang stopped and said calmly, "Duanmu Hai, come out." "Uh-huh." The next moment, an old man wearing a white robe appeared in front of Su Yang. His face is wrinkled, and his hair and beard are all white. Although he is the grandson of Duanmu Lu, at this age, his appearance looks similar. At this time, Duanmu Hai stared at Su Yang and frowned, "Do you know me? Grandpa told you about me." Su Yang pretended to be calm and said smoothly, "Well, you are 200 years old and half a step into the divine section. Your Excellency, who are you? Why did my grandfather take you into the treasure house tonight and treat you with such courtesy, Duan Muhai asked curiously. A few hours ago, Duan Muhai went out for something and only came back a few minutes ago. But through the surveillance system installed in Miyagi City, he saw with his own eyes his grandfather Duan Mulu and a young man disappearing into the entrance of the underground treasure house. Moreover, Grandpa was talking and laughing with this person, and he looked like good friends who had known each other for years. But Grandpa has always been lonely and has never had any friends around him. Just now, Duan Muhai noticed that the young man had come out of the treasure house, so he followed him and planned to ask questions. When Su Yang heard Duan Muhai's inquiry, he looked back at Miyagi. Naturally, he discovered the surveillance camera hidden in the corner. He instantly guessed Duan Muhai's psychological activities and suddenly had an idea in his mind. Urban Super Dude. Author, Eagle in the Desert. Chapter 335. Answer me, who are you and what is your relationship with my grandfather? At this time, Duan Muhai asked again. He. A sly smile flashed in Su Yang's eyes, but he said dissatisfied, Duan Muhai, is this the tone you use to talk to your elders? Elder. When Duan Muhai heard this, he immediately showed displeasure. Young man, you look like you are only in your 20s, but I am already 200 years old. What qualifications do you have to call yourself an elder in front of me? Although he was a little displeased, Duan Muhai did not break his face, and he had no intention of taking action. First, the young man in front of him must have a good relationship with his grandfather, otherwise his grandfather would not take him to the treasure house. You know, even Duan Muhai is not qualified to enter the treasure house. Grandpa attaches great importance to the treasure house. Duan Muhai has lived in Miyagi City for 200 years and only entered the treasure house once. At that time, he was still a teenager. Out of curiosity, he sneaked into the treasure house, but was discovered by his grandfather Duan Mulu. Duan Mulu showed no mercy. He hung him from the beam and whipped him with a whip. He was covered with bruises and was warned that he would not be allowed to approach the treasure house for the rest of his life. Since then, Duan Muhai has never dared to approach the treasure house again. Even in all these years, he has never seen his grandfather leading anyone to visit the treasure house. Grandpa is the only one who has the key to Miyagi's underground treasure house, and for hundreds of years, only Grandpa has entered it. But tonight, Grandpa actually took this young man to the forbidden area of the treasure house. It can be seen that Grandpa is very friendly to this person, so Duan Muhai does not dare to think of teaching Su Yang a lesson. In addition, there is another reason, that is, Duan Muhai witnessed with his own eyes that the young man in front of him had extraordinary skills and amazing movement speed. However, he didn't feel the slightest bit of true energy from Su Yang, and he couldn't figure it out for a while. Presumptuous. At this time, when Su Yang heard Duan Muhai's words, he became furious and said in a deep voice, "Your grandpa wants to give me 3 points of thin noodles, but you actually say that I am not qualified." Snort. I will return to the treasure house now, find that old guy Duan Mulu, and ask him how to teach his grandson. If he doesn't know how to teach, I don't mind discipline him for him. Su Yang was furious. After speaking, he turned around and made a move to return to the palace city of Country D. This. Duan Muhai was immediately frightened, his expression was extremely complicated, and he thought to himself, this man calls himself me, and calls my grandfather by his name. Judging from his tone, it seems that he and my grandfather are equals, and he still wants to discipline me. Could it be that he is an old monster who has lived hundreds of years? I heard that there are some secret techniques in the ancient martial arts world. Although they cannot prolong life, they can maintain youth forever. Could this person have practiced that secret technique? After Duan Muhai came up with this idea, he thought about it carefully and felt that it was very possible. This person's physical skills are not weaker than mine. Moreover, he was able to detect me just now when I was secretly following me, which shows that this person's strength is unfathomable. Grandpa has always had a bad temper. If he knew that I had offended one of his close friends, he would definitely not let me go easily. No, we can't let him go, find Grandpa, otherwise I won't be able to reap the benefits. But I'm different. The descendants in my family are all rubbish. Mud can't hold up the wall, hey. Inherit Grandpa Su's family property? After hearing what Su Yang said, Duan Muhai felt even happier. No one doesn't like to be praised. With this in his mind, Duan Muhai comforted him, Grandpa Su, your children and grandchildren will have their own blessings. You don't have to think so much, as long as your children are happy. Su Yang always adhered to the principles of acting and said, now that you have taken over the Duan Mu family, that old Duan Mu Lu, even if he dies now, he will die with no regrets and no worries. This Grandpa Su is such an amiable and good grandfather. Su Yang looked at Duan Muhai with the eyes of future generations, and said with appreciation, now you still have a chance to attack the Shen Zone. Once you set foot in the Shen Zone, you can maintain the glory of the Duan Mu family for another 100 years, hey. When Su Yang heard this, he stopped and showed a satisfied smile, as a young man, you should correct your mistakes when you know they are wrong. In this case, I will not be unreasonable, so let's forget it this time. Duan Muhai was even more certain that Su Yang was an old monster who had practiced the secret technique of staying. He calls himself Grandpa Su, well, he and Grandpa are about the same age, so I really should call him Grandpa. Duan Muhai felt very comfortable being praised. When he heard Su Yang sighing for the last time, he wondered, why did Senior sigh? Grandpa's underground treasure house is forbidden for him to enter. Now, Grandpa's best friend wants him to inherit the assets. Thinking of this, Duan Muhai hurriedly caught up with Su Yang and said politely, Senior, I'm sorry, I have offended you so much before, please don't be like me. He. No no no. Su Yang's eyes fell on Duan Muhai, then he smiled and said, Xiao Hai, maybe you don't know my existence, but your grandfather often mentions you to me. By the way, Xiao Hai, Grandpa Su has lived for more than 200 years. Although he has done nothing, he has also built a lot of assets. Are you interested in inheriting it? Suddenly, Su Yang extended an olive branch. He calls Grandpa old thing, and his relationship with Grandpa must be extraordinary. Su Yang pretended to be profound, pretending to reminisce, and then said seriously, it must have been more than 100 years ago. At that time, your grandfather had just set foot in Shenzhen, and we often competed together. Thank you, Senior. As he spoke, Su Yang sighed again and said sadly, Xiao Hai, you, Grandpa Su, and I are suffering, you don't understand. Indeed. Duan Muhai was relieved, turned to look at Su Yang, and said with doubts on his face, Senior, may I ask how long have you known my grandfather? When Duan Muhai heard this, he was instantly excited and felt extremely happy. Duan Muhai was extremely frightened, and hurriedly waved his hands and said, Senior, this junior is ignorant of Mount Tai, and thinks that you are just a junior in his 20s, so he said something rude. There is no need to make trouble with my grandfather. This junior is willing to accept your punishment. He said you are very talented and you are the second best player in Country D. When I saw you today, it turned out to be true. Grandpa Su is quite pitiful. His life is about to end, but he has no heirs to take over the family business. We've known each other for so long. When Su Yang saw Duan Muhai's expression, he knew that he had successfully disguised himself, so he figured out his temperament and said calmly, Duan Muhai, if you want to apologize, you'd better say it in front of your grandpa, so that you won't say behind your back that I'm using my identity to suppress you. This. Ha ha ha. What? Xiao Hai, your grandfather and I are about the same age, and our lifespan is about to run out. Su Yang looked at Duan Muhai with relief and said with a smile, Haha, Ziohei, you are really good at comforting people. Listening to you say that, Grandpa Su feels much better. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Urban Super Dude. Author, Eagle in the Desert. Chapter 336. This. Duan Muhai was very excited. Grandpa Su, there is something wrong with this. You have descendants, how could it be my turn? Snort. Su Yang snorted coldly and said with hatred, my descendants are really too stretched. The mud cannot hold up the wall. If I hand over my assets to them, sooner or later they will be taken away by outsiders. Maybe it will also lead to death for them. Xiao Hai, it will be different if I leave it to you. Su Yang's eyes fell on Duan Muhai, and he said with an appreciative smile, you are already half-stepped to the divine section, your strength is unfathomable. You have the opportunity to step into the true divine section. With your strength, you can completely protect my assets. Grandpa Su has no other requirements. I only hope that after my lifespan is exhausted and I die, you can take care of my descendants to the best of your ability. Su Yang said seriously, hey, this is the last thing I do for them. Grandpa Su. Duan Muhai heard this and said seriously, you are too polite. With your relationship with my grandfather, even if you don't have any so-called assets, I will still take care of your descendants. Ha ha ha. Su Yang smiled and said, Xiao Hai, it sounds like you are not very interested in Grandpa Su's accumulated assets. It seems that you know nothing about Grandpa Su. Actually, Grandpa Su, I have great influence in China and am one of the top experts. Let me show you my treasure. As he spoke, Su Yang waved his hand, and many medicinal materials and elixirs appeared out of thin air on the scene, piled up like a mountain. These things were naturally snatched from the underground treasure house. So many medicinal herbs and pills. Duan Muhai's eyes suddenly shone, and his breathing quickened. Then he seemed to think of something, and said with shock on his face, how come these things suddenly appear? I know. Duan Muhai suddenly realized, his eyes fell on Su Yang's finger, and he asked tentatively, Grandpa Su, is the ring on your hand the legendary Sumuru ring? Haha, Ziohei, I didn't expect you to be quite knowledgeable. Su Yang smiled softly, and then with a wave of his hand, he put all the medicinal materials and elixirs on the ground into the storage ring, and then said, yes, this is the Sumuru ring. After 100 years from Grandpa Su, this I can give you the ring. Ah! Duan Muhai was excited, and said excitedly, thank you, Grandpa Su. Don't worry, as long as I am here, I will never let anyone bully your descendants. Well, with your words, Grandpa Su will feel relieved. Su Yang smiled softly and said, leave your mobile phone number. We, grandfather and grandson, need to keep in touch. If you have any difficulties, you can always tell Grandpa Su. You, Grandpa Su, and I still have a few years to live. Good. Duan Muhai was flattered, and like a good baby, he gave out his mobile phone number with a pious face. Yes, Grandpa Su took note of it. Su Yang smiled, and then said, it's getting late, Ziohei, you should go back and rest. It's time for Grandpa Su to return to China. By the way, don't go to the underground treasure house during this period. Your grandfather said he wanted to practice in seclusion and kicked me out. Su Yang reminded him to prevent Duan Muhai from finding out that the underground treasure house had been emptied and chasing after him to cause trouble. Grandpa Su. Duan Muhai smiled bitterly and said, maybe my grandfather didn't tell you that he never allowed me to enter the underground treasure house. This old immortal thing. Su Yang breathed a sigh of relief in his heart, but on the surface he cursed, we are already this age, and we have worked hard to accumulate assets for the sake of future generations. It's okay if my descendants don't live up to expectations. You are so good, Ziohei, but that bitch Duan Mulio is still wary of you. It's so annoying. No, Xiao Hai, you wait here, I will go to the underground treasure house now, beat that bitch severely and avenge you, Su Yang said angrily. Comfortable. Very comfortable. Duan Mulu couldn't help but smile. He didn't know why, but he felt very happy when he heard Grandpa Su calling his grandfather a piece of shit. At the same time, he felt that Grandpa Su was simply too good, and this was the model of being a grandfather. But, seeing that Grandpa Su was going to settle accounts with Grandpa in the underground treasure house, Duan Muhai quickly stopped him and said, Grandpa Su, you'd better not go. If my grandpa finds out, he will blame me. What are you afraid of? I'm here to support you. That bitch Duan Mulu will try to touch you, Su Yang said arrogantly. Thank you, Grandpa Su. Duan Muhai smiled bitterly and said, I accept your wishes, but isn't my grandfather already in seclusion? It's better not to disturb him. Oh well. Su Yang nodded, and then said, in that case, Ziohei, Grandpa Su is gone. We, Grandpa and grandson, will keep in touch by phone. Okay, goodbye, Grandpa Su. Duan Muhai said goodbye respectfully. Duan Muhai murmured to himself with a serious face, without any doubt about what Su Yang said before. Buzz buzz. Ha ha ha, it seems that I have to walk around with Grandpa Su more in the future. I want to treat him as my own grandfather. All things considered, Duan Muhai had no doubts about Su Yang's strength, age, and relationship with his grandfather Duan Mulu, so he was deceived by Su Yang. But at this moment, Duan Muhai's voice suddenly came from behind. Su Yang's heart skipped a beat. Could he have noticed it? However, Grandpa Su said that he is going to leave the Sumuru ring and all his assets to me. In order not to appear guilty, he did not rush and left step by step. Immediately afterwards. In addition, he could not detect Su Yang's true energy fluctuations, so he thought that Su Yang was a master who surpassed him. Soon, the helicopter cabin closed, soared into the night sky, left the scene, and shuttled through the clouds. At this time, Duan Muhai said with a friendly smile, Country D is the territory of my Duan Mu family. Why don't you let me arrange a helicopter for you to escort you back to China? Little C. Watching the helicopter disappear, Duan Muhai was reluctant to leave and sighed, hey, it would be great if Grandpa Su was my biological grandfather. What a good elder. Duan Muhai made a call on the spot, and soon a helicopter appeared at the scene. Watching Su Yang enter the helicopter, Duan Muhai said goodbye respectfully, Grandpa Su, goodbye. When you arrive in China, don't forget to call to report that you are safe. Grandpa Su is really a talkative elder, and he has a very correct concept of life. He knows that resources are reserved for future generations. He is much better than my grandfather. Su Yang turned around slowly, showed a smile and said, what's wrong? Is there anything else? Su Yang nodded lightly, then turned around and slowly walked away. Why can't you just say it like that old guy Duan Mulu, who was out of breath when he spoke? It gave me a false alarm. This incident made Su Yang feel a little embarrassed. Grandpa Su, you're welcome. It's my honor to work for you. He killed his grandfather and emptied the underground treasure house in Miyagi. Before leaving, he even sent a plane to transport him. Su Yang nodded. Grandpa Su, this place is thousands of miles away from China. It would be a waste of time and energy for you to walk back. Wait a moment. Damn it. Duan Muhai smiled flattered. Because he was indeed under surveillance and saw Duan Mulu and Su Yang talking and laughing. Su Yang couldn't help complaining, but he smiled on the surface and said, haha, Ziohei, you are serious, so I will trouble you. Urban Super Dude. Author, Eagle in the Desert. Chapter 337. At this moment, Zhao was on her way to the palace city of Country D when she suddenly noticed that Su Yang's aura was moving away from Country D. Zhao frowned slightly, but she did not hesitate and disappeared in an instant. Her goal was to find Su Yang, regardless of life or death, so she moved quickly towards the direction where Su Yang's aura was. On the helicopter, Su Yang talked to the pilot and asked him to take him to southern Xinjiang. Facing Su Yang's request, the driver naturally responded respectfully. At the same time, outside Nanjiang City. Previously, Lu Hui and Wang Sai each flew a special fighter plane, carrying Su Yang and members of the Blood Massacre to the battlefield in southern Xinjiang. Afterwards, Su Yang led the Blood Slaughter members to get off the plane and fight, leaving them on standby. Lu Hui and Wang Sai did not leave and stayed where they were. However, at this time, they encountered big trouble. A teenage boy appeared quietly and subdued Lu Hui and the two in an instant. This young man had appeared in the Su family manor before. He was Chu Fuxian's book boy, and his name was Lin Yuan. Since the last time, he has been observing Su Yang in the dark, intending to find out Su Yang's secret. Yesterday, Su Yang took a helicopter to the battlefield in southern Xinjiang, and Lin Yuan also followed. But he came on foot instead of taking a helicopter, so his speed was slower. When Lin Yuan arrived at the battlefield in southern Xinjiang, it was already dawn, the battle in southern Xinjiang was over, and Su Yang was no longer there. Subsequently, Lin Yuan took control of Lu Hui and Wang Sai. After questioning, he learned that Su Yang was evading Duan Muliu's pursuit. Senior, this news was told to us by Captain Xiao. It is absolutely true. At this time, Lu Hui said, that Duan Mulu has a great background. Mr. Su must not be his opponent. If you want to find Mr. Su, please go to Country D immediately. If you go too late, I am afraid that Mr. Su will fall into the hands of Duan Mulu. At this moment, Lu Hui and Wang Sai were lying on the ground unable to move as their true energy was blocked. Although Lu Hui knew that the young man in front of him had bad intentions and that he must not be well-intentioned when looking for his master, he still told him the whereabouts of his master. Because the master is being chased by Duan Mulu, and Duan Mulu is so strong. So Lu Hui wanted this young man to go too. Maybe they could reduce the owner's burden by dog-eat-dog. Today's Lu Hui is no longer weak, but in front of this young man, he has no power to fight back. In fact, the other party just released a breath and suppressed himself to the ground. After all, Lu Hui was the guard of the Jimin black market and was well informed. He vaguely guessed that Lin Yuan's true age was not 14 or 15 as he appeared on the surface. If you think about it further, this young man must be a terrifying existence. If he goes to Duan Mulu, no matter whether he can defeat Duan Mulu or not, he can reduce the burden on his master. Duan Mulu. Lin Yuan, a young man dressed in white, frowned slightly and said, "This is troublesome, that old guy is not weak. If I were at my peak, I could easily defeat him, but now, I still have a year to go before I can reach perfection. With my current strength, if I meet Duan Mulu, I can kill him, but it will be a hard battle. That Su Yang is full of tricks, has a magical movement technique, and is incredibly fast. He may not be able to escape Duan Muliu's pursuit." Lin Yuan thought for a while and finally decided, "I will wait here for a while. If Su Yang has not returned within 2 days, then he has fallen into Duan Muliu's hands. With Duan Muliu's eyesight, he will definitely be able to see how extraordinary Su Yang is, and he should be able to find out the methods of Su Yang's cultivation." Lin Yuan thought to himself, in this case, it doesn't matter whether Su Yang is dead or alive. I just need to find Duan Mulu in 1 year. My skills will be perfected in 1 year, and Duan Mulu will be in front of me. How dare I hide anything? I am determined to obtain Su Yang's cultivation method. This is what I am thinking about. Lin Yuan sat cross-legged aside, slowly closed his eyes, and breathed out in an orderly manner. As for Lu Hui and Wang Sai, he did not write them off. Because walking back and forth is too strenuous. If possible, Lin Yuan would naturally want to take a plane back to China. Now Lu Hui and Wang Sai were smiling bitterly and could not move. They could only pray that their masters would not come to southern Xinjiang after escaping from the pursuit of Tuan Muliu. Naturally, Su Yang didn't know this. The helicopter drove quickly and arrived in southern Xinjiang in the middle of the night. Your great-great-grandfather Suwuji, that is a legend of an era. Above is the sky, below are all living beings, in the whole world, no one can match it. P.S. Lin Yuan's name, friends who look carefully should be able to guess that he came from the depths of the clouds and mist, participated in the Battle of Kunlun, and his hands are stained with the blood of the Su family. The first reader who guesses correctly, please send us a private message pictures of my beautiful women. Master, run quickly, this person is very strong. Lu Hui saw Su Yang and hurriedly reminded him. At this time, Lin Yuan also noticed Su Yang, opened his eyes instantly, and met Su Yang's gaze. However, he was locked by the other party's gaze, and if he ran away now, it might be too late. Next to him, there was a teenage boy, sitting cross-legged, with the aura in his body like the sea, unfathomable. Su Yang's figure flickered, and according to his memory, he moved in the direction where Lu Hui and Wang Sai parked their helicopters. Nature. Participate in the Battle of Kunlun? Immediately afterwards. Lin Yuan smiled and said, let me meet you. My name is Lin Yuan, and I am Chu Fuxian's book boy. Thank you for your hard work. Go back and tell Xiao Hai that Grandpa Su is grateful to his 8 generations of ancestors. Su Yang got off the plane and told the pilot with a smile. Without Lu Hui's prompting, Su Yang had already felt that the guy in front of him must not be weaker than Duan Mulu. When Su Yang heard these words, his eyes suddenly turned red and his heart was already filled with anger. Su Yang frowned and said, do you know my great-grandfather? Su Yang's expression changed drastically, and he broke into a cold sweat. Then he said calmly, what are you observing me for? To avenge your master Chu Fuxian. What? Some time ago, Chu Fuxian and I went to Jiangbei together and witnessed you killing him. Since then, I have been observing you secretly. He. Su Yang looked solemn and asked, who are you and how do you know your name? Torturing the direct line of the Su family. Su Yang. He has been observing me, but I have no idea. Lin Yuan sighed, shook his head regretfully and said, it's a pity that no matter how much I torture the Su family, I can't force Suwuji to learn how to practice. Su Yang frowned slightly and stared at Lin Yuan warily. Lin Yuan smiled playfully and said, I'm just curious about you. Su Yang, can you tell me what kind of exercises you practice? Is it the ancient Qi training method left by your great-grandfather? Haha, Chu Fuxian is not qualified to be my master. He is not even qualified to be my slave. To avenge him is even more nonsense. It didn't take long for him to arrive at the scene, and at first sight he saw Lu Hui and Wang Sai lying on the ground with pain on their faces. At this moment, Lin Yuan stood up slowly and smiled softly, you did not disappoint me, you actually escaped Duan Muliu's pursuit. Yes. I think back then, in the battle to destroy Kunlun, I represented Yun Mis Deep and had the honor to participate. Lin Yuan recalled for a moment, then sneered, however, if you are no stronger than 2 generations, the rest of your Su family can't do it. You can't even defend Kunlun Mountain and are almost wiped out. The pilot responded respectfully, then drove the helicopter and left the border of southern Xinjiang. Urban Super Dude. Author, Eagle in the Desert. Chapter 338. Ever since he learned about the family's great feud, Su Yang kept it in mind and secretly vowed that one day he must kill his enemy. Nowadays, Su Yang became furious when he heard Lin Yuan talk about the evil deeds he committed in Kunlun Mountain with a smile and a relaxed tone. He. Lin Yuan's eyes fell on Su Yang, and he smiled playfully. Su Yang, are you very angry and want to kill me? When asking, Lin Yuan released a terrifying power and directly crushed Su Yang away. Snort. Su Yang snorted coldly, gritted his teeth to resist the oppression brought by Lin Yuan, and said fearlessly, so what? Tisk tisk, he is indeed Su Wuzi's great-grandson. He has a lot of tenacity, which is rare and valuable. Lin Yuan shook his head and smiled. Unfortunately, in my eyes, you are just a reptile and you are not qualified to be my opponent. Su Yang stared at Lin Yuan and asked in a deep voice, who are you? My name is Lin Yuan, but people in the ancient martial arts world prefer to call me Lao Tu Wu. Deep in the clouds, old poison. Su Yang narrowed his eyes slightly, with overwhelming anger emerging from his eyes. This title was still fresh in his memory, and his father mentioned it emphatically. At this moment, knowing Lin Yuan's identity, Su Yang couldn't bear it anymore, and a terrifying spiritual energy surged out of his body and swept the whole place. This energy. Seeing this, Lin Yuan smiled excitedly. This is the kind of energy Su Wuzi used back then. If I guess correctly, this should be the legendary spiritual energy. Su Yang, teach me the cultivation method quickly, maybe I can give you a pleasure. Lin Yuan took a step forward, and his whole body was filled with true energy. Although the true energy is not as good as the spiritual energy, Lin Yuan's true energy is too huge, so huge that he can win by quantity and overwhelm Su Yang. Su Yang calmed down at this moment and realized that he was no match for Lin Yuan. He narrowed his eyes slightly with a slightly complicated expression. After a few seconds of pause, Su Yang suddenly put away the spiritual energy around him, and the anger in his eyes disappeared. Seeing this scene, Lin Yuan raised the corners of his mouth and smiled softly. What, Su Yang, have you given up fighting me? Su Yang nodded and said, I am not your opponent, why should I fight with you? Ha ha ha, you know the current situation. Lin Yuan looked at Su Yang and said with a smile, so, what do you think about telling me the cultivation method? I just want to survive. Su Yang planned to follow the same example and use the same method to deal with Duan Mulu to deal with Lin Yuan, so he said seriously, as long as you let me go, I will voluntarily teach you the skills left by my great-grandfather. Ha ha. Lin Yuan nodded with satisfaction, looked at Su Yang with admiration, and said with a smile, those who know the current affairs are heroes. Su Yang, I agree to your request. Now, tell me your cultivation method immediately, and I swear I will never kill you. Good. Su Yang nodded and said, sit down cross-legged and relax your mind. I will transfer the skills to your mind, and you can practice. Okay. Lin Yuan stared at Su Yang with a smile, and then did what Su Yang said. Seeing this, Su Yang felt happy, and then he strode up and came to Lin Yuan's side. Subsequently, without any unnecessary nonsense, he took out more than 20 energy stones from the storage ring. I can't bear to let the child trap the wolf. Although more than 20 energy stones were wasted, it was worth it as long as it allowed Lin Yuan to start cultivating. Once Lin Yuan reaches the first level of Qi training, he will not be able to use the true Qi in his body. Shouldn't he just let himself control it? Thinking of this, Su Yang sneered in his heart, quickly kneaded the skills with his fingers, and passed the low-level skills that he had previously passed on to Duan Mulu to Lin Yuan. Is this the technique practiced by ancient Qi practitioners? It is indeed very mysterious. Lin Yuan digested the skills in his mind, and his eyes blazed with intense joy. Like Duan Mulu, he aspires to become a Qi practitioner in order to pursue immortality. Although Lin Yuan's martial arts is rather strange and can rejuvenate his youth, his overall lifespan is similar to that of ordinary Shenzong, and he can live an additional 30 to 50 years at most. This rejuvenation is Lin Yuan's last. If he cannot become a Qi practitioner, he will definitely die in a few decades. Therefore, Lin Yuan was very dedicated to practicing the exercises this time when he was rejuvenated. He. Such a low-level skill is placed in the Xiantian immortal realm. Even the disciples of small sects would not bother to practice it, but he feels like he has found a treasure. He is really ignorant. An imperceptible smile flashed in Su Yang's eyes, and then he said, "The technique has been taught to you. These are spiritual stones. I can now guide you to embark on the journey of cultivation. If nothing else happens, you will become a cultivator in 2 or 3 hours at most." With that said, Su Yang planned to knead the secrets and arrange the spirit gathering array, thereby guiding Lin Yuan to become a cultivator at the first level of Qi training. After all, in his opinion, no one can resist this temptation. Duan Mulu is an example. Take. But Lin Yuan stood up, pinched Su Yang's wrist, and sneered, "Su Yang, I didn't agree to let you help me set foot in cultivation. Also, don't think that I don't know that spiritual energy and true energy cannot coexist." Lin Yuan smiled coldly and said, "If I set foot on cultivation now, I can no longer use my true energy. Otherwise, the spiritual energy and true energy will collide with each other, which will make me miserable. I will lose my ability to fight. Wouldn't I become a lamb to be slaughtered?" What? He actually knew. Su Yang's heart trembled, but he said calmly on the surface, "Who did you listen to? It's nonsense." He. "The person who said this is your great-grandfather, Su Wuzi." Lin Yuan shook off Su Yang's wrist and said coldly, "More than 100 years ago, Su Wuji crushed all parties, integrated the ancient martial arts world, and established an organization called the Martial Alliance. He was the leader of the Martial Alliance. Power over the world. At that time, the 3 major forces and major families in the ancient martial arts world all surrendered to the Martial Alliance." Lin Yuan continued, "In order to win over people's hearts, Su Wuji summoned many geniuses one after another to sit down and discuss things. I am lucky enough to be one of them. That day, as a junior, I asked Su Wuzi if he could teach me his cultivation methods. Su Wuji didn't refuse, he just told me that true energy and spiritual energy cannot coexist. If I practice his technique, I must dissipate all my true energy, otherwise I will be in unbearable pain and the gain will not be worth the loss. Furthermore, Su Wuji also said that when he first started practicing his skills, his strength would be very weak, and he could barely turn his strength into energy. After telling me this, he asked me if I still insisted on learning his exercises." Lin Yuan continued, "At that time, I had already set foot in Tianzong. Among my peers, there were few opponents. In addition, I was still young and had no desire for life, so I refused. Thinking about it now, I really regret it." Lin Yuan said regretfully, "If I could choose again, I would definitely choose to become a Qi practitioner. Even if I practice from scratch, at least my lifespan will be extended and I may even have a chance of immortality. But it's not too late to practice now, Su Yang, thank you for your skills, haha." Lin Yuan looked at Su Yang and sneered, "You can die now. Cutting the grass and eradicating the roots is my usual code of conduct." After the words fell, Lin Yuan's palm emitted strong fluctuations of Genkai, and he suddenly slapped Su Yang. "You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Urban Super Dude. Author, Eagle in the Desert. Chapter 339. The feeling Lin Yuan brought to Su Yang was similar to that of Duan Mulu, a presence that he could not compete with. Now, Su Yang's pupils shrank rapidly, not daring to compete with Lin Yuan, so he immediately used the close proximity. Whoosh! The next moment, Su Yang dodged Lin Yuan's attack without any risk. But before he could take a breath, Lin Yuan rushed forward again, without any hesitation, and slapped Su Yang on the chest. Puff. Immediately afterwards, Su Yang's body flew backwards, and blood spilled into the sky. After landing, he lost his fighting ability and lay on the ground with a pale face. Too strong. Su Yang concluded that before he established a foundation, he would definitely not be a match for an ancient warrior of Lin Yuan's level. Su Yang, your movement skills are indeed weird, but that's just it. Now, I have mastered the training methods of ancient Qi practitioners. In time, I will be like you, with mysterious and unpredictable body skills. Lin Yuan walked towards Su Yang step by step, and sneered, now, you, suffer death, I will carry forward the Su family's skills, ha ha ha. Then, Lin Yuan raised his palm, intending to kill the weak Su Yang with one strike. At this time, Su Yang had no power to resist. Even if he forced the blood sacrifice and sacrificed the key to the East Palace, he could not defeat Lin Yuan. It seems that we can only wake up Shifen. With Shifen's ability to be infinitely close to the foundation, she may be able to compete with Lin Yuan. Even if it doesn't work, she can also create an opportunity for me to escape. With this in his mind, Su Yang planned to contact Shifen and ask the teddy dog in the storage ring to come out to the rescue. How dare you hurt him? Court death. But at this moment, a cold voice suddenly sounded from all around. Immediately afterwards, a white figure appeared in front of Su Yang with lightning speed and met Lin Yuan's palm. Boom! In an instant, the two palms collided, and with a muffled sound, the terrifying aftermath of the battle rippled around. Although Su Yang was seriously injured, he was at the 9th level of Qi training and had spiritual energy to protect his body, so he was not affected. Even at this moment, Su Yang released 2 strands of spiritual energy to protect Lu Hui and Wang Sai, otherwise these 2 people would definitely die. At this moment, Su Yang was very curious and quickly looked up and forward, wondering who was helping him. No doubt. This white figure is naturally wearing a white dress and has been rushing to Zhao for more than 20 hours. After Zhao and Lin Yuan exchanged palms, they both retreated at the same time. It was obvious that they were evenly matched and no one got any advantage. At this moment, Zhao steadied her body, her face as sinking as water, and stared coldly at Lin Yuan in the distance. Lin Yuan's eyes also fell on Zhao, his face changed slightly, and he was particularly solemn, and said coldly, "Who are you?" "National Blade Instructor, Zhao," Zhao responded coldly. "National Blade? The official organization of China." Lin Yuan frowned and said in disbelief, "I didn't expect you to have such terrifying strength that you would commit yourself to a small national sword. What sect do you come from? Why did you rescue Su Yang?" Snort. Zhao was as cold as ice, with strong murderous intent in her eyes, and said in a deep voice, "I don't like talking nonsense to dead people." As soon as the words fell, Zhao took action instantly, and the Genkai erupted from his body, as vast as the sea, and took the initiative to kill Lin Yuan. Lin Yuan took a breath and passively fought back. The two of them fought back and forth, and the scene was very shocking. "Sister Zhao." At this time, Su Yang recognized Zhao from a distance and was a little surprised. He vaguely guessed that National Blade Instructor Zhao was a terrifying existence. But Su Yang never expected that Zhao would appear to save him at the critical moment. "Anyway, I owe Sister Zhao a favor." Su Yang looked at Zhao, who was fighting against Lin Yuan, and smiled, then his expression turned strange. "Dad said that Sister Zhao and he were love rivals back then, competing for my mother. I also said at the time, sooner or later, I have to avenge my father. Now that this has happened, how can I seek revenge from Sister Zhao?" Su Yang touched the bridge of his nose, then smiled bitterly and said, "Forget it, just write it off. I forgive her on behalf of my father." Said. Su Yang stood up slowly, wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, looked at Zhao, who was writhing up and down with interest, and couldn't help but shake his head with regret. What a beautiful young lady, she fights so beautifully, she seems to be dancing, so beautiful, like a fairy in the sky. It's a pity that such a top-notch classical beauty has a problem with her sexual orientation. She's a lily and likes women. She's wasting such a good figure. Su Yang shook his head repeatedly, not meaning any offense. He really felt sorry for Zhao. What a waste of such a beautiful woman. After feeling emotional, Su Yang walked up to Lu Hui and Wang Sai and asked, "How do you two feel?" "Owner," Lu Hui said respectfully, "we are fine, it's just that the man's energy was sealed away." "Yes, we were not injured, but the qi cannot flow," Wang Sai explained. "Well, I understand." Su Yang nodded, and then injected a stream of spiritual energy into Lu Hui and Wang Sai's bodies respectively, which instantly dissolved the seal left by Lin Yuan in their bodies. "Thank you, Master." Lu Hui and Wang Sai stood up and said respectfully. Su Yang nodded lightly, and then asked, "When did Lin Yuan appear?" "Hours ago." Lu Hui said truthfully, "This man is too strong. Wang Sai and I had no chance to fight back before he was subdued. He couldn't even inform you." In the end, Lu Hui felt some self-blame. "It's not your fault." Su Yang smiled softly, and then looked at the scene in the distance. At this time, Zhao and Lin Yuan were fighting hard, and the real energy was raging and dust was flying. "You don't want your life, and you don't want to hurt me, but you want to hurt me. Stop, stop quickly, our strength is almost the same, there is no need to fight." "Crazy, you woman must be crazy." "Okay, if you want to fight, I will fight to the death with you." Facing the fierce offensive of Zhao, Lin Yuan panicked, gritted his teeth and used all his strength. True. He and Zhao were equally matched, and neither could hurt the other in a short period of time. But Zhao didn't care about anything, and used ferocious moves, trying to hurt herself just to seriously injure Lin Yuan. As a result, after dozens of rounds, Lin Yuan was already injured, and of course, the same was true for Zhao. The injuries of the two were almost the same. At this moment, Zhao's offensive continued unabated, and every time he made a move, he left no room for killing moves. In her opinion, Lin Yuan must die after he injured Su Yang, and she must kill him. But Lin Yuan didn't want to fight with Zhao head-on. He wanted to test Zhao in this fight, just with two casual moves. But now, it turned into a life-and-death battle regardless of the consequences. For a moment, Lin Yuan retreated. Urban Super Dude. Author, Eagle in the Desert. Chapter 340. Snort. I have just obtained the training method of the ancient Qi refiner. I have a bright future in the future. I may even have the chance to live forever and walk on the legendary ancient road. There is no need to fight to the death with this crazy woman. With this thought in his mind, Lin Yuan mobilized his true energy and used all his strength to strike out with a palm. Seeing this, Zhao did not flinch at all, and also slapped his palm, intending to confront Lin Yuan head-on. Boom! The next moment, a muffled sound was heard from the scene, and the two of them flew out one after another, and their blood spilled into the sky. It was obviously a lose-lose situation. National Blade Instructor, Zhao. When I was fighting for the last palm just now, I put Helison on my hand. I hope you have a good time tonight, he he he. A playful smile appeared on Lin Yuan's lips, and then he disappeared. Puff. Zhao was very stubborn and had cold eyes. After stabilizing his body, he went to chase Lin Yuan. Sister Zhao, don't chase after poor bandits, Su Yang reminded quickly. Regarding Lin Yuan, just run away if he can. Su Yang could see that even if Zhao tried her best, it would be difficult to get an advantage from him, and there was no point in pursuing him. Besides, Su Yang plans to avenge this revenge himself. As for the skills passed down to Lin Yuan, I'm not afraid that Lin Yuan will practice, but I'm afraid that he won't practice. Once Lin Yuan becomes a cultivator, he will lose his true energy and will definitely not come out to make trouble in a short time. Moreover, Su Yang was confident that Lin Yuan's progress in cultivation would definitely not be as good as his own. After all, it was just a low-level technique and was nothing to worry about. At this time, Zhao stopped, hesitated for a few seconds, and finally gave up chasing Lin Yuan. Then, she strode to Su Yang and asked with concern, "Little guy, are you okay? It's nothing serious, just a minor injury." Su Yang smiled softly and said, "Sister Zhao, why are you here? I already know what happened on the battlefield in southern Xinjiang last night." Zhao did not say that she went to country D, but simply said, "I was worried about your safety, so I came here." "I see." Su Yang touched the bridge of his nose and said half-jokingly, "Sister Zhao, you are worried about my safety, you don't like me, do you?" "No." Zhao smiled with a natural expression, "I don't like men, but you owe me a cup of milk tea, and you promised to give me cosmetics, but you didn't give them to me, so I don't want to see you die. If you don't like men, that's fine." Su Yang's face was full of regret. Although he had heard the news from his father a long time ago, hearing it from Zhao himself felt different. This moment, Su Yang really felt that it was a pity. It would be great if he could straighten Sister Zhao. What a superb beauty. "Little guy, when are you going to give me the cosmetics and milk tea?" At this time, Zhao asked with a smile. "Haha, Sister Zhao, you are so serious. You came all the way to save me for this little thing. Okay, I will make arrangements for you when I get back, but before that, I have to help you." Having said this, Su Yang approached Zhao and raised his hand to gently wipe away the blood stains on the corner of Zhao's mouth. Zhao was stunned for a moment, with a confused look on his face, completely different from the frosty look he had during the fight just now. This was the first time a man touched her so gently, the first time a man touched her lips. Zhao was completely confused and had a strange feeling in her heart. She stared at Su Yang with her beautiful eyes. "Sister Yuyan." "No, he is not Sister Yuyan." Zhao was like this, motionless, just looking at Su Yang's face. After Su Yang wiped off the blood stains for Zhao, an imperceptible smile appeared on his lips. He admitted that his actions just now were intended to tease Zhao, and wanted to see if Zhao could still be straightened. Facts have proved that Zhao has a chance, at least she is not too repulsive to men. "Instructor, Su Yang, you." At this time, Zhang Chenyang walked over and was stunned when he saw Su Yang's hand still on Zhao's lips. Before, Su Yang took a helicopter all the way to southern Xinjiang. Naturally, Zhao did not go on foot, otherwise there would be no time. Her figure flickered, and she found Zhang Chenyang on the border of country D, and asked Zhang Chenyang to drive her over. Just now, Zhao felt that Su Yang was in danger, so he jumped out of the helicopter and rushed over. Zhang Chenyang parked the helicopter and walked over slowly. Unexpectedly, when he arrived, he saw the instructor and Su Yang acting ambiguously. Cough. Hearing Zhang Chenyang's voice, Zhao immediately reacted and took a step back, slightly embarrassed. As for Su Yang, he smiled lightly without any embarrassment. "Instructor, what were you doing just now?" Zhang Chenyang asked curiously. "Don't ask what you shouldn't ask." Facing people other than Su Yang, Zhao regained her cold image and spoke indifferently. "Yes." Zhang Chenyang responded hurriedly, and then said excitedly, "Instructor, I know why I can't sing that song well. Because I sing a cappella without accompaniment, I can't find the key. Singing a cappella is so difficult that even professional singers find it difficult to do it perfectly." Zhang Chenyang was still singing persistently. He took out his mobile phone from his arms and continued, "Instructor, I downloaded the music accompaniment this time, and now I will sing it to you." Just as he was talking, Zhang Chenyang pressed play on the touch screen, and the BGM dedicated to Mixue Bing Cheng sounded instantly. "You love me, I love you, Michelle Bing Cheng is sweet, you love me, I love you, Michelle Bing Cheng is sweet." Zhang Chenyang was holding his mobile phone, singing and swaying his body to the music, very intoxicated. But unfortunately, the ending this time was the same as before. Before he finished singing, he was punched away by Zhao. "Noisy." Zhao put away her fists and said coldly, "Next time I sing, I will cut your tongue, I." As Zhao was talking, she suddenly felt a discomfort coming from her body and could no longer stand still. "Sister Zhao." Su Yang strode forward, supported Zhao, and checked Zhao's body, revealing a wry smile. "Su Yang, what did you do to our instructor?" Seeing this, Zhang Chenyang, who was beaten away, hurried over and questioned Su Yang. "Shut up." Zhao glared at Zhang Chenyang, and then asked weakly, little guy, why did I suddenly?" "Sister Zhao, the person you fought with just now is an old poisoner from deep in the clouds, and he is the best at poisoning." Su Yang smiled bitterly and explained, "I guess he gave you a poison that stimulated estrus during the previous fight. Now the poison has taken effect, so in estrus." When Zhao heard this, he immediately gritted his teeth and said, "Damn it, little guy, can you detoxify it?" "This." Su Yang smiled bitterly and said, "It's possible, but, ahem, I looked carefully and found that the poison went straight into the bone marrow. If you want to get rid of it, you can only obey the poison and don't force it out, otherwise your life will be in danger." "Poison? How can I obey?" Zhao suppressed the restlessness in her heart and asked with rapid breathing. "That is." Su Yang whispered something in Zhao's ear, and Zhao's face instantly turned red.